Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and today we're taking a look inside the most recent Ultimate Spider-Man #1. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups, and today we're going to be taking a look inside Ultimate Spider-Man #1, the most recent edition. This is written by Jonathan Hickman with artwork by Marco Checchetto. This has taken the comic book world by storm and has become very quickly a fan favorite and best-selling comic. Now, what I have here is the third print with a Terry and Rachel Dotson cover, I believe. I didn't get the first print. I was unable to get the second print. I chose not to get the first print. Then we had a kerfluffle at our shop over the second print. But I was able to get a hold of the third print because I did want to have a physical copy that I could go through and talk about with you. It is unfortunate because this is probably the weakest cover out of all of these ones that they've done. So I don't really like the cover, but it's inside that matters. So we're going to dive into this. So a little bit of backstory, which they give us right here at the very beginning. You know, this all spins out of Ultimate Invasion, right? And in Ultimate Invasion, the maker went to kind of recreate an Ultimate Universe that he could control. So we get this completely, like, very spectacularly well-defined in just this opening bit. 20 years ago, the Maker prevented a radioactive spider from biting a young Peter Parker. He likewise prevented the creation of any other superheroes and formed a secret council to rule the world from the shadows. When Tony Stark learned the dark history of his universe, he sought to undo it, prompting the Maker's council to attack Manhattan, killing thousands, and framed Stark for it. Peter Parker has lived his life unaware of the Maker's council or the truth behind the spider, but that's about to change. All right, so setting this up was Ultimate Invasion, which is out in trade paperback right now. The Maker, he's the Reed Richards, an evil version of Reed Richards from the original Ultimate Universe. He was in the 616 for a while. He leaves to another universe, goes back in time in that universe, and prevents these superheroes from being created. So like it says right there so succinctly in that little bio at the very beginning, that there's no heroes on this world, so it's run by his council, waiting for his inevitable return. So that's what's going on here. This took the comic book world by storm. Let's explain why. First of all, it's going to be that artwork by Marco Checchetto. Marco Checchetto is a really solid artist. I think he might work digitally, but I'm not 100% sure. On the coloring, we have Matt Wilson, who is a fantastic colorist, and we have Corey Pettit on the lettering. And the lettering's decent. It's typically what you see out of a Jonathan Hickman book, the Ultimate books. And back in the day when the Ultimate line first launched in the early 2000s, they were doing the lowercase lettering. That was very uncommon. That became very common. And then now it's kind of going in and out, but Hickman loves to use it. So anyway, this is what we're doing. We're diving in. We open up in New York City in January, and we meet Peter Parker. Now, in this reality, Peter Parker was never bitten by that radioactive spider. He has grown up. He's got a job. He's got a wife and 2 kids. That's something we're going to find out. And it starts with him looking and saying, "Peter Parker, you're not getting any younger." And that is the difference between this and any other Ultimate Spider-Man or Spider-Man retelling of an origin, is it usually involves a radioactive spider biting a kid and that kid learning power and responsibility. We're doing it different here. He's 35 years old. He's already been living a life. He's got responsibilities already, but he hasn't quite learned anything about power. And that's something that is missing in his life. And we see that as just the setup of this slow build, right? They're just giving us the information. Peter's older. Peter's not young. Peter's married. Peter's got kids. Richard and May, right? So there's his kids. They're eating breakfast. They have a nice little bit of banter. The wife left them bacon and coffees, and the wife, of course, is Mary Jane. So one of the reasons why I think people like this book is because Peter and Mary Jane are together. And that's something that fans seem to like, want, and expect out of their comic books. And in the Amazing Spider-Man right now, they're not doing that. They're not doing that at all. And I think a lot of fans are upset with that. Plus, the idea of Peter with kids. Now, this has been explored in Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. Peter and Mary Jane were going to have a kid back in the 90s. That kid was going to be May. The kid, there was a miscarriage, right? So they didn't actually have the baby. Then there was the M2 line with Spider-Girl where they did have the baby. She grew up to be Spider-Girl. So it's playing with some of those things. Meanwhile, the young lady, she finds this metallic orb in Peter's case, and he's like, not a toy, kiddo. Mary can tell that something's up with Peter. Also, today's a very particular day. Something's very significant about this day, and Mary Jane is worried about Peter. Do you want to talk about it? He goes, we'll talk about it later. All right, so he goes off to work, and he works at the Daily Bugle. So we come in, we get J. Jonah Jameson screaming, Parker, Parker, then very quickly sees Peter and goes, oh, hey there, Peter. No time for chit-chat. Parker! Oh, what's another big difference between this and other Spider-Man tales? How about Ben Parker being alive? That's right, Uncle Ben is alive, and he's the managing editor of the Daily Bugle. Him and J. Jonah Jameson are partners, and they have this really nice banter. They have this nice dynamic, right? And Jonathan Hickman's the writer. And first of all, let's talk about this art real quick. The art is great. I think he's digital, but one of the things I love about Checchetto, like if he was doing books back in the 80s and 90s, this would be like splatter effects, like some Klaus Janson type stuff that he's doing to have the snowstorm. There's a big snowstorm that's a part of this story. It's just a reason to show some more of that beautiful artwork that Checchetto does, especially when he does the exteriors and snow. He does that a lot in some of his run on Daredevil with Chip Zdarsky. So we get introduced to the idea of Ben Parker and J. Jonah Jameson being partners at the Daily Bugle. Now, Jonathan Hickman is really great at high concept type stuff. I was worried about him being on Ultimate Spider-Man because Spider-Man is a different book than what Hickman usually excels at, right? He excels at big, wide, high concept type stuff. Not really so much small, personal stories that involve banter and witty dialogue, but he's doing it here, and he's almost kind of like appropriating the Bendis dialogue from the original Ultimate Spider-Man. You see that kind of go through here. So they're working together. They have this nice rapport about it. Lots of talking. Now, when this book first came out, it did not make my pick of the week. I thought the book was a really great setup, but it didn't have enough action for me. I wanted a little bit more oomph to this, right? Well, we will get more of that oomph, especially when we get into issue number 2, which if you want me to, we can cover that here. Just let me know in the comments down below. But they have to go to a special event. Peter's not wearing a tie. J. Jonah Jameson gives him his tie. They're talking about his uncle. Is your uncle okay? Do you think Ben's okay? He's like, you should actually talk to him, but we don't talk about our feelings. This is a completely different relationship between Peter and J. Jonah Jameson. Completely different because it's recontextualized because of Ben Parker not just being alive, but being involved in J. Jonah Jameson's life. So they have a nice little talk. It's nice to have this sense of warmth between the two of them. It's a different dynamic. So not only is Ben alive, but that changes that dynamic, that the relationship between Peter and Jonah. So then what they're going to is in that attack that we're referenced at the very beginning of the story in the information, in that attack, May Parker was killed. So Peter goes and he talks to Ben about it. Ben's like, look, you lost your family, you lost your parents when you were 15, you came to live with me and May, and it wasn't easy, but we loved you and we got a family, but you know that there's not one day that goes by that it doesn't hurt that they're gone. I know exactly, you know exactly how I feel. So this is a meeting of people to commemorate or to like a memorial service for all the lives that were lost in the attack on Manhattan, including May Parker and also, look at that, Norman Osborn. So now we got Matt Murdock, who is a priest in this Ultimate Universe, delivering like an elegy type thing, right? And so they have this nice little bit. And then they have a special speaker. It's Harry Osborn talking about his relationship with his father. He lost his father and his mother on the same attacks. And you get the ideas that something is not sitting quite right with this dude. Now, what is the snowstorm supposed to represent? I think it's there for an aesthetic value. I think it's there to show like the cold, stark reality that they're facing with the death of their loved ones and a memorial service for that thing. But there's definitely something maybe sinister going on with Harry Osborn right here. And we know now that Norman's dead. So the whole dynamic between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin, that's going to be different here too. So we're going to see what happens, what comes of that. So then Peter and them go back to work, because earlier they mentioned that the everybody wanted all the senior staff, the Bugle, there for a meeting at like 4 or something. So Ben and Parker, they got to go. Ben and Peter, they got to go back to the offices, where they see Jonah Jameson, very irate, very upset, and he runs out of the office, runs out of this meeting, having quit. So as he rushes off, Ben goes in to see what's up, finds out from Robertson that there's going to be some change because of the way that this paper has been covering some of the incidents about maybe the Shadow Council or the mayor or things like that. They are being told by ownership to soften their stance. Jonah Jameson quits because of that, and Ben is taking in all the information, and then you find that the owner of the Bugle is Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. And that dude right there, 100%, you know who that is. That's got to be Bullseye, right? So he says, pleased at your good fortune. After all, nature abhors a vacuum. What's that supposed to mean? Wilson offers Ben Jonah Jameson's job. So Ben's managing editor, but Jonah Jameson's editor-in-chief. So he's like, if you want the job, it's yours if you can toe the line. Ben has this nice little smile, walks out, goes to join Jonah. So, what are we going to do now? And a nice little smile on Jonah's face right there. Meanwhile, Wilson and Bullseye, they're leaving the Daily Bugle, and there's an attack that happens, and we get introduced to the new Ultimate Green Goblin. Now, the original Ultimate Green Goblin was more of a Hulkish type character. It was an interesting origin that I did like and did enjoy, but I like this back to basics approach with the Goblin wearing a suit, wearing or on this glider. Now, it looks like Stark technology. I love the look of this. It looks exactly like what Willem Dafoe's costume should have been in the original Sam Raimi movie. It works. And then you got this nice little glimpse between Bullseye, because that's totally Bullseye, and Goblin. That's going to that's setting up some stuff in issue number 3. Then we go to a bar with no name, which might be the bar with no name that we know from Marvel Comics. Jonah and Ben are talking about what are they going to do. The coloring is so good here too. Matt Wilson, he loves to use colors. He separates the backgrounds from the foregrounds. He uses colors that are realistic, but at the same time he uses colors that are not as realistic to make it still feel comic booky and make it pop and make it work. So I really do appreciate the coloring here. They have a conversation about what they're going to do. Jonah Jameson says, let's start our own paper. And he's like, well, this time we'll do it better. Or Ben's the one that suggests it, right? I think. And then they're like, well, what's the name? What are we going to do? Some really great dialogue here. We'll do it better this time. We'll do it right. And what's that look like, doing it right? Ben says, it's easy. We tell the truth. The truth? The truth? Jonah Jameson just laughs. I love this. There are some things I like to believe in, Ben, that I'm not going to die alone, that there is such a thing as justice. But in this entire universe, there's only one thing I know for sure, and that there is no truth in the news, and no news in the truth. Like I said, it's a dirty business. So how about this? We promise not to lie. That's a really profound statement, and it's very true, but it's also kind of like optimistic, which is rare for Jonathan Hickman. Like if you read The Nightly News by Jonathan Hickman, we covered that on a show we used to do here called Comics Revisited. So check out that episode, check out that book. Jonathan Hickman, rightly so, is very critical of the news media, especially in America. So it's nice to have this kind of like optimistic approach, but also like a very brutally true reality about it too. So Peter shows up to check in on him. They tell him, hey, we're going to start our own paper. Do you want a job? And he's like, do you have any money? And Jonah Jameson, that's a day 2 problem, Peter. Tonight, I'm a man who was right with the world. Really love that stuff. So he leaves. And then Peter is talking to Ben, right? And he's like, how do you blow up your whole life in one afternoon and then just start a new one? And Ben says, Peter, my wife is dead. You're a grown man and have a family of your own. And given the opportunity, I just couldn't take being in an industry of compromise 1 minute more. Why wouldn't I do what I did? It was an easy choice. But he knows that something's up with Peter. What's up with Peter? Peter starts talking about, I got responsibilities, but I can't blow everything up to change my life, but he feels like something's missing in his life. For the longest time, I've thought something was wrong with my life, Ben, that something was wrong with me. I really can't explain it, but I just know that I've been right all along, and I don't know what to do. Stern look. Have you ever heard the saying, inaction is action? Well, that's just a garbage way of telling you, don't spend your life waiting for something to happen. Make it happen. He says, if you're walking around half asleep, wake up. He's telling Peter, get your head out of your ass. If you feel like something's missing, go and find that, right? So then we go back to the apartment. Peter has a nice little thing with his son. His son is a smart dude. He's reading. They're building a little bit on their relationship because more is going to be, in future issues, more is going to be built up with the relationship between him and his daughter. So it's nice to have this little moment with his son. But now that the kids are asleep, he goes to talk to Mary Jane. She's like, what's up? There's something going on. We need to have a talk. And he's basically saying, I don't want to say something that I can't take back, but I think I need to change. She's talking to him. He's like, no, I think I need to change, right? It's not just about the job. It's not just about that. And it's not just about the marriage. It's about Peter. He feels like something's missing, right? And she can tell. She's like, you're an amazing husband and just lights out a father, but you've been walking around for years with this cloud hanging over you. You put a good face on it, but I know you're not satisfied with who you are. Do you know what you have to do? He goes, I think so, yes. Are things going to change between us? Never. Well then, that settles it. I'm going to bed. Go get him, Tiger. So he's got her support because he's always been there to support her. He pulls out that metallic orb that he shushed away from his daughter earlier, goes outside, and we get a flashback to the night before. And on this flashback in the night before, he is delivered this mysterious package with a hologram message from Tony Stark, who's kind of like a Kang Iron Man character in this reality. He's sending a message from 6 months in the future, and he tells Peter, you were supposed to be bitten by this radioactive spider, but you never were. There was a dude named the Maker. He stopped it. There was a council of people that control the world. I'm trying to correct this mistake, bring the heroes back so that 6 months from now I can walk out of this room and there's a world of heroes that can put the world back to right. He tells them, in this is a costume and what does he call it? It's a spider, right? But he says, inside is a Picotech stealth suit to mask your identity and a bioorganic catalyst necessary for you to undergo a post-human transformation. What in the world is that even supposed to mean? He's basically telling them, this is a genetically altered spider that's going to bite you. Here's a costume. What are you going to do? Do you want back the life that was stolen from you? Do you want it back? I want it. Then wake up and go get him, Tiger. The two most influential people in his life. I'm sorry, I just realized there was a glare coming across here. Ben and Mary Jane tell him to do it. He allows himself to be bitten by the spider, and that's the end of the issue. And what I love here is everything aesthetically with the coloring and all the snow, all the colors are cool. All the colors are frozen. But the moment he makes that decision, a new dawn opens up and a Spider-Man is here. And that's it. That's the first issue of Ultimate Spider-Man. It doesn't seem like there's much to it, but there is. There's a lot of meat to this story. There's a lot of interesting changes. It is drastically different than any Peter Parker Spider-Man origin that we've come to know, but at the same time, it's familiar enough. The character's still there. I love this version of Ben. I love this version of J. Jonah Jameson. I love Mary Jane and the kids. And issues 2 and 3 just keep exploring this concept and making it even better and better. Now, the first printing of this is like $100 or more now. That's crazy. There's a second print. There's a third print. There's a fourth printing on the way, and even a fifth printing on the way. This is a book that just does not stop. I loved it. I thought it was great, and rereading it and getting to dissect it, and seeing how this story develops over like the next 2 issues, because as of this time of recording, 3 issues have come out. I'm on board. I really like this version of Spider-Man. This is a way better comic book than Amazing Spider-Man is right now. It's top-notch. It's making waves, and for good reasons. And for an issue that doesn't have a lot of action, for an issue that doesn't have any Spider-Man bits whatsoever, it is still at its core and root a Spider-Man book about power, about responsibility, but another layer above that about waking up and shaking yourself out of whatever funk you're in and embracing the life that you want. Not lamenting that you never got the breaks or the chances that you wanted to, that you never got to do the things that you wanted to, but stop whining, wake up, go get 'em, Tiger, make the change. This is a Spider-Man that really can appeal to a 30, 40, 50-year-old, right? 100%. It's never too late. It's never too late. So anyway, that's what I thought. Well, that's what I'm digging the hell out of this book. If y'all want to see me go through more Ultimate Spider-Man, let me know. Also, any other books that you'd like to see me go top down, bottoms up here on this channel, please let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And station, keep on reading. Pop, pop, boom, y'all. Have a good one.